Just Trump style. That's the way Nigeria's government reacted to a firebrand social media post from US President Donald Trump threatening to send troops into Africa's most populous nation. Quote, guns a-blazing. Now, he's accused the Nigerian government of failing to protect Christians without naming specific incidents. Nigeria's government says jihadist violence affects all faiths and insists the country is religiously tolerant.
In June this year, up to 200 people were killed when gunmen stormed a Christian farming community in Nigeria's Middle Belt, where the majority Muslim north meets the largely Christian south. That attack came almost exactly 3 years after a brutal bombing and shooting at a church in the southwest of the country left dozens of worshippers dead. A number of terror attacks have targeted Nigeria's Christian community over the past few years. Advocacy groups say the government has denied the severity of attacks on Christians, though groups monitoring violence say there's no evidence to suggest Christians are being killed more than Muslims. Now the United States has gone further, accusing the government in Abuja of allowing a genocide against Christians. On Saturday, President Donald Trump threatened to cut aid to Nigeria and potentially stage a military intervention if the killings do not stop. Nigeria's foreign ministry has strongly refuted the allegations. In a statement, it said the government would continue to defend all citizens, irrespective of race, creed and religion. Some Nigerians have welcomed Trump's threat of intervention.
So Christians are now being scared to move about. Christians are scared to worship freely. The priests, the lay leaders, the seminarians and all that. So things need to be done. It's bad.
We don't mind if the US Army could take charge. At least peace will reign. If that will bring solution to Nigeria as a whole, then we are good to go.
Others who DW spoke to said they thought US military action could potentially stoke more ethnic tensions.
We've seen situations where the United States have helped countries, in quotes, to solve their issues, and they left it worse than it was.
Some Muslims are real Muslims and some are just covering up as a Muslim and they are terrorists. So what if you say you want to come over here and tackle terrorism and then at the end of the day you started attacking all Muslims?
Nigeria's Islamist insurgency has dragged on for over 15 years. Analysts say while Christians have been killed, most of the victims have been Muslims in the country's northeast. They also say many of the conflicts are driven by many factors other than religious hatred, such as land disputes between Christian farmers and Muslim herders.
And for more, I'm joined by Dr. Kabir Adamu. He's a security analyst and managing director at Beacon Consulting. That's a security risk solutions provider in Nigeria and the Sahel region. And he joins us from Abuja in Nigeria. So very good to have you with us. So please,
thank you.
Try and explain to us. Nigeria has been struggling with complex security problems, and that for a long time. What factors are at play there?
So mainly environmental factors, political factors, social factors, economic factors, especially the resource dispute. Land is one of them, and several other components of that resource dispute. The mining, minerals in particular, are also another one. Now, added to that is the geopolitical element, where you have especially the two global jihadist franchises, Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, that through the porous borders also influence security factors in Nigeria.
So there are quite a few challenges that you mentioned, but why is it a challenge for the Nigerian security apparatus to deal with the threat of Islamist terrorism, especially the Islamist group Boko Haram, that's been targeting Christians for quite some time now?
So I think the narrative that either the Islamic State in West Africa province or the Jamaat al-Ahli al-Dawati wal-Jihad, or in fact 3 other terror groups that exist in Nigeria are specifically targeting Christians is wrong. There is enough evidence that shows they are also targeting Muslims. Last I checked my records, there are about 300 incidents of specific targeting of mosques, bombings in Kano, killings of Muslims in their mosques in Zamfara, in Katsina. Like I said, 300 incidents. So I think it's important that that narrative is discounted. Beyond that, which is the body of your question, why have Nigerian security forces failed to deal with them? The reasons are complex. One, equipment deficit. Then even the nature of the insurgency. It is one that is modern. They are embedded within the people. The Nigerian state has not been able to win the hearts and minds of the people to enable enough support to do that. And then, of course, like I mentioned, the geopolitical element, a significant equipment that the jihadist groups are using is coming in from across the borders. And there is also the theory that perhaps even the USAID, which was funded by United States government, supported the insurgency in one way or the other. So it's multidimensional.
But I mean, we now know that the US president has threatened on social media that the US would intervene in order to protect the Christians. What would happen if the US military was to invade or have a little, I don't know, some sort of military action there in Nigeria? What would that mean for the country and for the Nigerians?
First off, I mean, we're in a rule-based system. Nigeria is a sovereign state. Another state cannot threaten to attack Nigeria in a rule-based system. And I think there is enough diplomatic platforms for Nigeria to appeal to follow, to ensure that that doesn't happen. But we've seen what has happened in other locations. So I guess Nigeria should take the threat seriously. Now, what is likely to happen? We can look at the report released by the United States Commission for International Religious Freedom, USCRIF, in July 2025, when it stated that the 2 threat elements that are preventing religious freedom, so-called Fulani extremists or militias, and then, of course, the terror groups like the Jamaat al-Ahli and the Islamic State in West Africa province. So one would presume that if the United States does attack, those are the 2 groups. But this is the difficulty. Isolating these 2 groups is almost impossible. Both groups live together with the communities that they are attacking. And so what could likely happen, especially since we've seen significant profiling, ethnic profiling, as well as stigmatization of the Fulani community. And just for the purpose of the listener, we're talking of about 10 million, a population of about 10 million, when only about 100,000 of them or thereabout are the militants or the extremist ones. So how do you isolate this 100,000 from the rest of the over 9 million? So this is the challenge. If the US attacks, this is what it's likely to target. And it would be unfortunate because it would mean killing innocent people who are probably victims of the same criminality that you're complaining about.
All right. Well, Dr. Kabir Adamu from Beacon Consulting in Abuja in Nigeria. Dr. Adamu, thank you so very much for that.
Well, from Abidjan, we're now joined by Azeezat Olaoluwa, DW's West Africa correspondent. Now, how is Nigeria's government reacting to this statement from Trump?
Thank you very much. There have been multiple reactions from the officials of Nigeria. President Bola Tinubu reacted yesterday, saying that specifically saying Christians are the most targeted with the insecurity issue in the country doesn't reflect the national reality of Nigerians. And there are multiple government officials as well saying there seems to be some sort of agenda for some people trying to say only Christians are targeted, and that there is no that Christians are not proportionally targeted in these attacks because Muslims are the most affected. And researchers that have looked into violence incidents in Nigeria have also said the same thing, that no religious faith or nobody according to their religious faith are specifically being targeted. So there is no form of truth saying that there is a genocide of Christians in Nigeria.
Now, Trump also has accused Nigeria of not doing enough to prevent the killings. What could the government do for the security of its citizens?
Well, many have said that Nigerian governments in the past years have not really done enough that they should have done to quell this insecurity that has now snowballed into something that they perhaps cannot handle by themselves alone. And that's why President Bola Tinubu has said that he is ready to work with the US and any other country that wants to support them in tackling this security situation. Many have criticized the government, saying that when Boko Haram started about 15 years ago, they should have done something that would decisively nip this insecurity issue in the bud. Now there have been emergence of quite a number of criminal gangs in north-central Nigeria, northeast Nigeria, and even the south-south region of the country. So now they're saying the authorities, perhaps by the criticism from the US President Donald Trump, Nigerian authorities will be forced to act decisively and end the insecurity problem in the country.
Now, the US president has also threatened to immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria. Would that be a big blow for the country?
Absolutely. The US is known to be the largest aid donor to Nigeria, and the country is known to donate at least $1 billion annually. So pulling that amount of money of aid from Nigeria would have a significant effect on health support, humanitarian support, and every other kind of support that the US is known to support Nigeria with. And you can recall when President Donald Trump pulled aid from humanitarian services, it's affected Nigeria a lot. And DW, of course, we went to the northeast Nigeria to document how the pulling of these funds affected internally displaced persons. And afterwards, the US announced $32.5 million in support to people that are affected by hunger in northeast Nigeria. So for you to know how significant the humanitarian aid that the US gives to Nigeria is.
Now, let's talk about the timing of this. Do we know why Trump is issuing that kind of statement right now?
Well, that's the question everybody is asking, because everybody knows that President Donald Trump prides himself as a peacemaking president. That during his administration, he is known to try to initiate peace parleys between countries instead of starting a war. So people are questioning this timing. However, you should note that there are some Christian organizations that have written petitions to the U.S. government asking them to look into the quote-unquote genocide of Christians in Nigeria that quite a number of people have said is not true. So people are questioning the timing. And I will also let you know that the U.S. in history has never had boots on the ground in Nigeria. The only relations they have military-wise has been through a supply of military weapons and, of course, military training of Nigerian soldiers. So people are actually asking why this time around. What is President Donald Trump trying to swing? Because the United States is not even known officially as a Christian country.
West Africa correspondent Azeezat Olaoluwa, thank you very much.